Okay, guys, it's going to probably be about maybe 3 or 4 videos for me to get through because there's always going to be some interruptions with these phones. I'm going to do the best I can. My apologies. So, my point was in the last video, what I'm saying overall to mankind, there are like 4 billion people that are thyroid compromised on the planet. And that means that there either we live far from the ocean and for because everybody can't live by the ocean. So this is my point. So when we take iodine nourishes the brain, it nourishes the immune system, and when a brain is nourished, it can hold large volumes of information. And here's the key. Now I'm going to bring this right back to you all. You all have to your advantage something amazing that is worth more than money, it's worth more than gold, it's priceless. It's to be able to have a well-nourished brain. And so in the book, I take people on a tour, around different parts of the world. And I said, look over here, you guys. I said, let's look at Northern Europe and Finland. And I had to think to myself in my research, why is Finland number 2 in the world in education? Because most people would think, oh, it's their school system. And I'm like, nope. And I'm going to show you why. And then I take people, because they're eating cod liver oil. Then I take people, take my readers, and I take them to Japan. And I said, well, let's look at Japan. They're number 6 in the world in education. But it's not the education system. They're 6 in the world in nourishing their children's IQ. Because what do they eat that's a part of their culture? They eat a food that is rich in iodine. It's called seaweed, okay? And then I said, well, in my book, y'all, and I said, I'm thinking to myself, well, the Nigerians are very intelligent. Everyone that I have ever met are like super intelligent. And so then I say, well, I did some research on Nigeria, and this is what I found out. You all have a very robust iodine salt program, okay? And that contributes to your intelligence. And then in addition to that, you have, if your parents knew to take cod liver oil, that's the recipe for a genius, right? It's not the school system. What we're doing is we're giving credit to the school system, but the credit belongs to nature. The credit belongs to God, the Most High, whatever it is that you call the divine intelligence, because that's what I call it. I call it divine intelligence. And so when we have a well-nourished brain can hold volumes of information. But that's not the school that nourish your brain. You're just absorbing the information in school, okay? So, and kudos to your government for having a iodine program, and then kudos to your parents. Good job to your parents. The parents is giving you all cod liver oil, right? So that you can be super intelligent, so that you can be a genius. Because this is what I'm learning here in the United States. Everybody's talking about generational wealth. But what good is generational wealth if our children don't have the intelligence to maintain the wealth, or end up being swindled out of the wealth, right? It takes intelligence to be able to maintain the wealth. If we have generational intelligence and we have generational good health, we're around for we have longevity. We can the money, the wealth, we can get the wealth. The wealth is going to come. But to me, we put the cart before the horse. And I'm not saying money's not important. Of course money is important. But if I had to ask people, would you rather have a genius brain or would you rather have money? I would take the genius brain, because you can have all the money in the world and then lose it But if you don't know how to have if you don't have the intelligence, you won't know how to maintain the money, how to invest the money, right? Or if you lost it all, how to get it again. Because if you did it once, right, and made all this money, you could do it again. So it's not about generational wealth. It's about generational intelligence. It's about generational good health and our longevity. And you all have access to that. Now, let me tell you, okay, so let me just finish this part. So, but when I checked out, well, who has the ISIQ thinking, prepared for, Nigerians to be in that number, which you are, then Sierra Leone. And I said, well, what is Sierra Leone doing? Because they saying that Sierra Leone has a high IQ, or the highest, right? Not that there's any competition, because the point is, collectively, when we all use our intelligence, for a purpose, for a vision, right? It's not a competition. We want everybody to be intelligent. Them, you, us over here. But see, that's what the problem is. Because like my son had a learning disability. If all my son needed was some iodine or some cod liver oil or some seaweed, Black people here in the United States, a lot of us don't eat seaweed. And the ones that took cod liver oil, they never knew that it was responsible for their intelligence, because the TV and the radio and the media, they don't advertise it and market it like that. Nobody's saying, hey, take your iodine so your children can be a genius. Hey, eat sea moss, high in iodine, so your children can be a genius. Hey, what about that iodine salt program from the government? Make sure you take your iodine salt so you could be a genius. We don't have an iodine salt program. We're over here on our own, doing the best we can. And let me show you what our best looks like. So, how y'all doing? So, what I'm finding out is that when I look at the statistics in the United States, there are only 450 million people who live in the United States. Guess what? 150 million people, and I'm sure it's much higher than that, cannot read beyond the 6th grade level. And I'm talking about from 16 years old to 74 years old. And that was preventable. All those millions of people, all the millions of people and billions of people around the world have no idea about what I'm talking about until they read my book and they make the connection. And they're saying, wow, how did you figure this out? How did you figure it out? What I figured out is like an investigation that was never supposed to be solved. This worldwide huge mystery. And my ancestors, all thanks to God, blessed me to be able to solve this mystery and have this understanding and bring it to everybody. And when I do, they all says, oh my God, this makes so much sense. Okay? So with that being said, you all are in a very unique position. But so here's a catch. There's always some pros and cons. So on the one note, you're all in a prime position, right? You're a genius. You have genius potential. You have the capability to be able to reach your greatest human potential, right? Because your brain is nourished. But here's the catch. I asked Segun, I said, do you all eat cassava? And he said, yes. He said, we eat cassava. Cassava is a part of our diet. And he said, why did you ask? I said, because there are foods that block the iodine absorption. There are foods that block the iodine from absorbing. So then that means you won't get the benefits of iodine. So what that means is that if you're eating cassava, And cassava is one of those foods. It's only a few. Cassava is one. It's cassava, soy, cruciferous vegetables, raw vegetables. What it does is it blocks the iodine from absorbing. And so then when that happens, that's how a lot of the learning disabilities and the slow learning and stuff like that happens. But it don't just affect the brain. It affects other parts of the body too, like the thyroid. And once the thyroid gets compromised, it compromises everything else in the body. So then you have to say, well, what's the problem with cassava? Cassava has cyanide in it, and cyanide is poisonous. But your ancestors knew how to take that cassava and I guess boil it and boil that cyanide out of it. Or another brother from Nigeria, he's a friend of mine, he told me another practice is that I guess they would take the cassava in the river and let the river, and let the water run through it for like weeks. But if you're just taking cassava and you're not practicing those old ways to prepare it, and if then all of a sudden we get kind of, I don't want to say anybody is lazy, but if we forget why we were boiling, if you forget why you were boiling the cassava in the first place, right? Because we quick to forget. If you forget why y'all were placing that cassava in the rocks and let the stream run over it for weeks and weeks at a time to get that cyanide out, then what happens is now every time you eat cassava, you're also eating cyanide. And cyanide is deadly. Cyanide is poisonous. Cyanide causes all kind of problems. Cyanide, C-Y-A-N-I-D-E, cyanide, right? Cyanide poison. It is deadly, and it kills, and it slowly will damage the thyroid and slowly compromise your health. So I just wanted to say that to you, so you can be mindful of that, because we don't want anything to be jeopardizing your health, right? Shortening your life, jeopardizing your intelligence, compromising your intelligence, and even compromising for some young brothers, even right there in Nigeria and different places here too in the United States. Their manhood is being affected, so they're having relationships and getting married, right? And things not working like it's supposed to, right? That's the best way that I could say that, right? Out of respect. But I want you all to know that, because some of you in here, you're 16 years old, and that could be a problem, and you don't want to have that problem, because then it could affect you having children. And for the girls, if they're eating cyanide or not having the cyanide removed, it can cause all kind of menstrual cramps, infertility, the loss of a baby, when you get pregnant, or that baby having learning disabilities, all kind of things could happen. Your baby could be a slow learner. So you got to be careful with that. And I don't know if your parents know this. A lot of people have forgotten certain things. So that is something that I wanted to share with you all. Stay encouraged. And if you get a chance, have your mom and your dad and you all, because you're intelligent. You're intelligent. You're so super intelligent. You can read this book. This book is easy. This book is simple. And people are reading this book in book clubs. And I'm going to be on the cover of a magazine in December. It's called the Author All-Stars magazine. Segun know about that. Segun, I'm on the cover of the Author All-Stars magazine in December. And let me see. Before I let you guys go, I look forward to hearing your questions. I wish I could have been there with you all live. I wanted to be there so bad. This would have been my first live. And at some point, I'm coming to Nigeria. I even wrote that in my book. Before I even knew I was going to even be meeting y'all, I wrote that in my book. I said, when I get to Nigeria, I say, I expect to see generational intelligence. I expect, right, to see your intelligence, your parents' intelligence, your great grandparents. It's not just about school, right? School is great. I am not knocking school. I'm not saying that. But make sure that, because we got a lot of children here in the United States and outside of the United States, there are probably about 500 million children who have learning disabilities, who cannot read, who are struggling with their speech. And what people don't realize, when they're struggling with their brain and the brain is not nourished, it's going to compromise the speech. So in this book, y'all, I got testimonies of little children, some 2 years old, 1 2-year-old that's in this book, was his parents can understand what he was saying. And I work with the parent. And I just asked them about their son, and they said, we don't really understand his communication, and he's not understanding potty training, and 2 weeks on supplements. And I asked about his son. He said, we're understanding his communication. He's speaking more clearly. He's understanding potty training in just 2 weeks, just like my son. In 2 weeks, right? So in the book, I talk about illiteracy. We don't have to have millions of people, millions, over 150 million people can't read beyond 6th grade, and it was all preventable. So the book, there's a lot. I don't want to be a spoiler alert. So there's a lot in this book that I don't say, but when you read the book, it makes everything make sense. Y'all, I even challenged the son. I challenged the name that they taught us in school, the name of the son. For example, and this is going to be my last point. And I say, they taught us that the 4 elements. What's the 4 elements, y'all? The 4 elements of matter. It's only 4. Say it to yourself. It's earth, air, fire, and water. So if you said that, you were right. Earth, air, fire, and water. But check this out. That's not true. I'm challenging that. And the reason that I'm challenging that is this. They say he who controls the information controls the world. He who controls the information controls the world. Who's controlling the information? Science, education, religion, not trying to offend anybody, the law, right? They're controlling the information. So if that is true, that the sun and fire are interchangeable words, why we don't say, it's a beautiful day, the fire is shining? Don't nobody say that. Don't nobody say it's a beautiful day, the fire is shining. And if the house is on sun, don't nobody say the house is on sun, call the fire department. And I'm like, it don't make any sense. You can't be changing the name of the elements. We can't be saying sun and fire as interchangeable energies because they're not the same. Because check this out. You don't get vitamin D from the fire. So if the house is on fire and you go over there and stand by the fire, you're not going to absorb any vitamin D. You only get vitamin D from the sun. So who in the heck changing the names of God's elements, right? Those are the kind of things that I challenge in this book. And so in closing, just so you know, the reason that I call the book that I titled it Stolen Intellect is because more than 300 million children around the world have a learning disability, ADD, ADHD, some kind of intellectual disability that was all preventable. So if it's preventable and nobody's preventing it, then in my opinion, it's being manufactured, right? And we can put a stop to that. The people, not waiting on the government or anybody, we can put a stop to it. But check this out. How can you put a stop to it? We as parents and great-grandparents and aunties and uncles and the adults, how can we put a stop to it if we don't even know how to nourish our children's brain so that they could be a genius and they're still in their intelligence? That means they stole our intelligence too. Because if I didn't know how to nourish my son's brain so he can be intelligent, then the wisdom, the ancient wisdom, was stolen from me. So then I realized all of our intellect has been stolen. All of us. It's been stolen. But guess what? With the book, we're going to get all of this wisdom, all of this ancient healing wisdom is right here in the book. So I look forward to your questions. I hope I get a chance to meet you one day. Sagoon, you and I, we're going to talk again. We're going to connect again. And I'm coming to Nigeria, y'all. I don't know when. I hope it's going to be in the next year or two. Because I'm coming. I want to travel all around the world. And I'm going to be sharing my book everywhere I go. On stage, in presentations, at churches, in different countries. I envision one vision for all of us. You can have your personal vision, and then we can have our collective vision. And I envision that this understanding in this book, that we can spread generational intelligence all over the world, right? We can do it ourselves. Me, you, the children. So y'all work on staying intelligent, keeping your immune system up, stay focused, go to school, get the information, right? Filter the information and challenge the information until it makes sense to you. We're just not going to take what somebody else said just because they said it, okay? But in the meantime, thank you, Sagoon, for asking me to be here. It was nice to meet you all, and I look forward to hearing your questions. And I hopefully I can be on a Zoom with you all the next time. It's getting late. It's like, probably about 7 o'clock. The sun is going down, not the fire is going down. The sun is going down, and I'm gonna go ahead and get ready for work tomorrow. And y'all take care. Bye.